2020 Democratic hopefuls are pushing for policies that would require serious constitutional amendments.
Get rid of the Electoral College.
The popular vote has been diminished in terms of making the final decision about who's the president of the United States, and we need to deal with that.
Well, the first thing I would do as president is make sure that we got the right people onto the Supreme Court so we didn't have worries.
I'm open to the idea of a younger voting age.
All right, so are Democrats trying to change the rules for a better chance at winning in the future? Here to debate that is political analyst at Media DC, Ron Meyer, and Democratic political analyst Kelly Hyman. Kelly, we're going to start with you. It certainly seems that way to a lot of people, trying to change the rules to try and win. What do you make of it? How do you defend it?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on this show. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's really important to look at the Electoral College and remember that the Founding Fathers put it in place because they didn't trust the public. And times have changed. People's vote should matter, and every vote should count. And so I think it's something that people should really consider and think about, that your vote counts and your vote matters. And we should discuss that issue about the Electoral College.
Okay, Ron,
and in regards to people...
Yeah, Ron, respond to that real quick, because that's interesting that the Founding Fathers didn't trust the public. Should we be more trusting at this point?
Well, I think that this just shows a total lack of civics education, and really that's the fundamental problem with the base of the Democratic Party, is that we haven't even gone back to Greek history to realize why majoritarianism failed and why the founders railed against mob rule by the majority. Yeah. And what the Electoral College does is actually protects political minorities. It protects people in rural America and smaller states. And I know that right now the Democratic candidates running for 2020 can't find anything redeemable about the American experiment or about the American founding, but this is one of those things that's actually been worth preserving and does actually have a protection for states and for people
Kelly,
that don't have a voice.
He makes an interesting point about, trusting mob rule. People vote for what's in their best interest, not necessarily what's in the country's best interest. If you say, vote for me and I'll give you $1,000, you're going to get a lot of people's votes.
Well, that's, debatable, but I think that we should think about the fact that people vote and their vote should matter, and that the populace and the people should make a determination on who becomes the president. I think that's really important. And also discussing about the young voters, I think that 16-year-olds should be able to vote, and they should have the opportunity to do that.
And let's stop right there. Tell me why you think a 16-year-old who's likely to vote for whoever a celebrity wants him to vote for, why should a 16-year-old be able to vote with no life experience, really?
Well, I think there's three reasons and why a 16-year-old should be able to vote. One of the first reasons is that they have knowledge about civics just as much as older people. The second reason is that 16-year-olds pay taxes and no taxation without representation, so they should be entitled to vote.
If thirdly, they work, I guess.
And thirdly, also the fact that the things that are happening are affecting their lives, and they should be able to make a decision about it. And there's a lot of movements by young people to make change, and so they should have the opportunity to vote. And also, when young voters vote, they're more consistent to vote for a longer period of time.
Ron, let's go over to you. A lot of people say younger kids have been indoctrinated by universities and celebrities. They don't think for themselves. What do you make of that?
Well, my question is, yes, of course, policy impacts every American, whether or not you're just born or whether you're 15 years old. If you're going to lower it to 16, why not 15? You think 15-year-olds don't deserve to have some sort of voice in the country? You think 14-year-olds don't, 13, and so on? The question is really, I think you made a great point, is that you're saying studies show the difference between 21-year-olds and 16-year-olds is very little on civics education. The problem is civics education. The problem is that our high schools and our colleges aren't teaching people about the merits of the American founding. They aren't teaching people the full context of history. They aren't giving people an actual basis on how American government works, that actually localities and local governments do most of the things that you see in your daily lives, not the President of the United States. Yeah. And if people were educated, guess what? More than 30% of those under 30 would be voting. Only 30% voted in 2018 of those who are under 30. How about this? Let's fix that problem first before we say let's have
their
16
motivation
or 15
and
or 14
their
year olds
interest
vote.
in politics
Well,
is lesser for sure.
we should change the Electoral College so people's votes matter and it counts. Absolutely. We should do that.
Kelly,
as
I'm going to ask you one last question. A new CNN poll shows Bernie Sanders' popularity has really come down quite a bit, especially when compared to 2016. You look 46% right now, 59% back in June 2016. What do you think accounts for this, Kelly?
You know, I don't think it counts for anything. I think polls, you know, change sporadically. However, I think that it's important that we have a candidate that crosses party lines, and brings people together. And I think that the Democrats will have that candidate.
Okay. All right. We got to leave it there, guys. But thank you so much for an interesting debate this morning.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.
Thank you.